I asked ChatGPT what an HSP is.
Okay.
And ChatGPT says it refers, because I need help understanding what an HSP is.
Sure.
Refers to an individual who possesses a heightened sensitivity and responsiveness to various stimuli, including emotional, environmental, and sensory stimuli. HSPs tend to process and experience sensory information, emotions, and external stimuli more deeply and more intensely than the average person. This heightened sensitivity can manifest in several ways: emotional sensitivity, sensory sensitivity, empathy and intuition, depth of processing, and overstimulation. Okay.
And many, many other ways.
And maybe there's many other ways. So, because when you and I were talking about it, I think one of the things you said is like, you thought about like the tags on the back of our shirts. That's not what, or the socks, sometimes our kids didn't like the regular socks because there's a little seam in them. So we got seamless socks when they're like 4 years old.
Diabetic socks.
My buddies were not talking about that. They were talking about
emotions,
highly volatile emotional response, because they see all these other kids who are not responding the same way, and they see their own who's responding much differently. Would those kids possibly be categorized as HSPs?
Possibly, but it just depends on why, because the thing about that we have to remember about kids' behavior is it's all communication. I mean, regardless of diagnosis or label, it's all communication. And what I mean is that there are some kids that are going to communicate more frequently, more loudly, or maybe shut down more. And that could be because of something that, there's a neurodiversity, or there's an anxiety that they're experiencing, that they're reacting this way, but they're still communicating to us their needs. And I think that the whole idea of I am a highly sensitive person, and I was when I was little. I didn't have that language, and I have learned through my experience on Earth about how to manage that, and I still struggle with it.
Is HSP like a diagnosis that you get from a doctor, or no?
Elaine Aron wrote a book called Highly Sensitive People a while ago. It's been out for a while, so it's in the ethers, and it's definitely something that therapists talk about, but it's a big umbrella. Like, it's not like you're highly sensitive, you're not. Because you can be sensitive in certain areas and not in others, but there are people, it's kind of like, it falls in this weird world of, are you an empath? And people and I don't even want to say self-diagnose, they self-label these things. And the reason that I am saying it so literally, like I am a highly sensitive person, is I check the majority of these boxes. This is not like I have heightened sensitivity perception. I wear my sunglasses when there's clouds out. I wear them when it's raining. There are rooms that are too bright for me. There are sounds that are too loud for me. There are smells that I can smell from. I could be in this room and smell something in the other room. I can feel people's feelings very deeply, which have been a challenge. And so I just consider it having a much thinner veil on the world. Like, I'm a little more of a raw nerve. And the way that in my life I have communicated that, when I was a kid, I was intensely shy. And again, that's how it showed up as behavior. And then I learned how to kind of be on and then go home and like decompress. That's why I totally understand when kids come home from school, how they like let it all out, because I would do the whole extroverted thing and I got really good at it, or I'd chameleon. So with whoever I was with, I would make them feel good because I was feeling what they were feeling. And, I sent Todd this really funny TikTok. It made him laugh because it was this woman saying, highly sensitive people be like, and the 4 things were her walking on the floor and picking things off her feet because she didn't like things on her feet. When I was a kid, I used to literally not be able to walk on sand in the beach because it drove me crazy, and I would walk on a towel. You can imagine how annoying that was to your family when you're at the beach. Like, I wouldn't walk on the sand. I probably vacuum the floor twice a week, because I don't like things on my feet. It's got nothing to do with cleanliness. The second one was wearing your sunglasses all the time, which I do all the time, going outside. The third one was smells. And the fourth one was cold temperature.
Yeah.
I vacillate between hot and cold a lot.
I want to see how many of these boxes you check.
Okay, go ahead.
Number one, and I'll read the definition. Emotional sensitivity. HSPs often experience emotions more intensely, both positive and I want to invite our listeners that if they have somebody in their life that they think might be, think about it through that lens.
Okay.
Emotional sensitivity. HSPs often experience emotions more intensely, both positive and negative. They might feel deeply affected by others' moods, empathize strongly, and be more prone to feelings of anxiety or overwhelm. So if you had to say yes or no to that one, sweetie, what would you say?
I would say yes.
And what would you say about me?
No, I don't think you're as affected.
Totally agree. So that's box one, check. Box two, sensory sensitivities. HSPs are more attuned to sensory experiences such as textures, sounds, smells, and visual stimuli. They might be easily overwhelmed by bright lights, loud noises, or strong scents.
Well, yeah, that's like my life.
That would be a yes and a no for me, right?
And a no for you, yeah.
Number three.
You need to learn how to smell more things.
No, I don't. I smell pizza and French fries, and that's
walk
fine.
in somewhere and I'll be like, this smell is so bad. And you're like, I don't smell anything.
Number three, empathy and intuition. This is an interesting one because by the way, I'm totally okay with not being either the first two, but now all of a sudden, intuition, like I would like to have that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Empathy and intuition. HSPs tend to have a strong capacity for empathy and intuition. They can pick up on subtle emotional cues from others and have a keen awareness of the emotions and needs of those around them. That's a double check for sweetie.
Yeah.
You should put 2 checks in that one
Yes.
for you. And I would say no for me. Do I have intuition? Yes, but I think every person has intuition. But through this lens, I would say no.
You don't pick up on subtle cues that people are dropping.
Right.
Like sometimes I think in a conversation, I can kind of notice by someone's body language or the way they answered a question, what the appropriate question should be next, or maybe lack of question. And I think sometimes you would just ask the question you want to ask.
Correct.
And you wouldn't pick up on maybe the girls are not up for that.
Got it. So you're 3 for 3.
Okay.
Number 4, depth of processing. HSPs tend to process information deeply and thoroughly. They may take longer to make a decision because they carefully consider all aspects of a situation before reaching a conclusion.
Well, I think this is an interesting one for me because as far as thinking deeply about something, oh my gosh, like I'll take something to the end. But I also, another part of my sensitivity is I actually have, I make very emotional decisions, meaning like if I was choosing an Airbnb or a shirt, or when you and I were choosing homes, I can walk in and feel if it's right.
For sure.
I don't
really quickly.
So doesn't take me long.
Yeah. You don't have
decisions.
paralysis by analysis.
I don't. So I think some people would say, oh, a highly sensitive person gets really stuck. I do not, but it's connected to the same thing that but I do, if I've watched a movie, I don't just get the surface of the movie. I want to talk about every layer of the movie, but I do not take a long time to make decisions.
Right. So maybe that's a half check or maybe not checked at all.
Or it would be another part of being a highly sensitive person is strong intuition, is that I can walk into a house and go, no. I can look at pictures of 4 Airbnbs and go, that's not right. And someone could challenge me on that. Like when I'm saying that to you guys, to everyone, I'm not saying I'm right, that you're wrong and I'm right. I'm saying this is how I feel and I go with it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Last one.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is the best. I don't know how important this one is, but I'll say it anyways. Overstimulation. Because HSPs are more sensitive to stimuli, they can become easily overwhelmed in situations with a lot of sensory input or emotional intensity. So now I'm going to go back to my father-daughter weekend this weekend, and I saw some of these younger people who became overwhelmed very quickly.
Exactly. And I think you would say, bringing it back into my world, that's me, is that I can go into pretty much any environment, but I have to have an out. I am somebody who needs to have a car that I can leave with. I like to sleep in my own bed if possible. That doesn't always work out, but I need to know that I'm going to have time alone, or else I have a lot more difficulty doing things. What is harder for kids, I'm an adult now and I can state this and I can choose it, right? I can say, and it does, I can't think of a time it's driven you crazy, but sometimes when I'm like, I want to have my car, I want to be able to leave. I know that's not easy for you or for other people.
I'm like, who cares?
Yeah. You're like, let's just go in one car. Let's just spend the night. Who cares if we don't have a pillow, you know, and these are hard things for me. And a kid though doesn't have choices. And I am saying that as a kid who had to go through that. And then these kids, and again, I don't think the point of this is go label your kid highly sensitive. I think the whole point of this is Elaine Aron wrote a book that gave us language for things that we in our society have tended to call wrong. There's something wrong with you. This shouldn't bother your feet. Why are you wearing sunglasses when there's no sun? Why do you smell everything? What's wrong with you? And all of a sudden you're the problem. That you are too much, as my girls would say, extra. You know, and what she was able to do is give language to something that a significant part of the population experiences. And instead of beating themselves up for it, they say, oh, that's just kind of how I deal with the world. I literally view it as a thin veil between me and the world. And I think with these kids that your friends may be saying, oh, are they highly sensitive? It's not about calling them that. It's about recognizing that what they deem as doable or easy or shouldn't bother them, it does. And it's not about changing them. It's about acknowledging that.
And we shared this example a million times, but when the pizza guy knocks on the door for the first 10 years of our marriage, I'm like, you would always say, will you go meet the pizza guy?
I also ask you, I do so much like, you know, emotional labor kind of work and do all these things. But when I have to make a phone call, I ask Todd to do it. And a lot of times he can't, and I have to do it myself. But phone calls are very hard for me. And I had to do it my whole life. I'm a Gen Xer. It's not that I am incapable. It's that, you know, like I will give you an example of like Todd does phone calls. I was about to say 24/7, but you'll get mad. You do phone calls all the time. You're doing a Zoom, a Marco Polo, a phone call. He's always talking to somebody. And when we are in the car and I can hear the other person talking, I might as well be in the conversation. And I don't mean that as like a slam, like they're too loud. I mean, I am feeling what they're feeling. I am part of the conversation. I feel like I need to tell Todd how to answer. It's very uncomfortable to me. And so I've said to him before, can you make that phone call later? Or can you put your earphones in so I'm not hearing them? Because otherwise I'm involved. And he may say, well, don't be. But you see, that's not fair.
Well, that's why it's important so that we can, it's hard to empathize unless we understand.
Correct.
And just going through this stuff now with you as we check these boxes, it does give me more capacity for empathy. Because I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. Look at all these boxes to check. You check 4 out of the 5. So there was something else I wanted to say about this topic, and I don't remember where I was going to go. Oh, so Elaine Aron. So her book is called The Highly Sensitive Person. She also has a book called The Highly Sensitive Parent. She's got a whole bunch of offshoots over that idea. So that's one tool. And it's an old book, 1996, I think.
This has been around for a long time. And I think that the thing that we want to remember, because we did a show a couple of weeks ago about frameworks and how helpful frameworks are and labels and such. It's not about, oh, my kid's a highly sensitive person, this is a problem, or so now I'm just going to never say anything about it. It's really the same as any other framework of like, what's your Enneagram number? What's your love language? It's understanding your kid or your partner or yourself. Is that
it's a vehicle of understanding.
I no longer say to myself, these tags or the stuff on my feet shouldn't. I mean, Todd, what do I do with my feet every night? Like I have to put lotion on them.
Your cold feet on my warm skin.
I do that too. But I like put lotion on them. I take care of them. My feet are so sensitive, the bottom of them. And interestingly, yoga helped me kind of learn how to be barefoot all the time. I love it. But then afterwards, I have to wash my feet. They're like the other day, I'll just give you an example. I washed the floor 2 days ago. I mopped the floor, and everybody in my family knows I love to mop. And then I walked around on it and I could feel the chemicals on my feet. And I know someone will say, no, you didn't. I do. And so I have to go wash them because it's like, and I know people will probably say, then don't put chemicals on your floor. But what I mean is it was still wet. It was still because I had some Mr. Clean in there and some other things. I'm going to get emails telling me to use vinegar. I know. I just like the smell. And
how dare you use Mr. Clean?